Hello and welcome back to part 3 of my tips for passing the TExES exam the first time. Okay, so if you're new here, my name is Kiana, but I go by Q, and this semester I was a student teacher. I'm getting my EC36 certification. Okay, so here's what you guys didn't know. I have to take my ESL exam. I've officially gotten a job as a first grade teacher, but my school, the district that I'm going to be teaching in, they require us to be ESL certified. So I have to get that by March of 2021. So I'm going to be studying just like you. So I'm going to show you how I study. That way you kind of get a feel of what I did, because I know I kind of threw out a bunch of resources in my last 2 videos. So I'm going to show you how I study. So I bought another book from Ria. So this is for the ESL supplemental exam. I bought this book. And I will show you how, I haven't started studying yet, and I will show you how I studied for the EC36 exam, but I actually let someone borrow the book. So I can't actually show you how I did study, but I'll show you how I'm going to study for this exam this time. Okay. You do not have to buy this book. Okay. You can rent a book like I told you in the first video. You can use Quizlet, but I'm going to show you how I do it. So if you have a book, I recommend because I studied for 4 weeks. So however long you're gonna study, you just need to break it up into sections. So the first week, I read through domain 1. So whatever that is for your exam, I read through domain 1. So I read through all of this on domain 1, and I took notes. So I'm gonna show you what my notes look like, because I still have the actual paperwork that I wrote down. Aren't y'all lucky I'm a hoarder? Because this was like in October that I studied for this exam, and I still have this paperwork. I'll take that back. I started studying in August. I even wrote the dates, y'all. Look. Okay, so oh, maybe this is for another one. Okay, so here's some notes that I took for the PPR exam, and this was August 20th of 2019. So things that the TExES exam does not like, I took notes on those, and that was something from one of my professors. One of my professors made a slideshow, and they shared this information with us, and that's kind of where I got those tips in the first exam, where I told you that they don't like people who nag their students. They don't want you to exclude anyone. That's where I got it. But yeah, so just so you know, I feel like this is the same thing across all of the tests. So just keep this in mind. The TExES exam does not like, they don't like answers that that include you segregating, lowering your expectations, assessing for grades. And it's not that this isn't important, it just says that this is the least important. Telling instead of showing, so it's like where you just say da da, do this, blah blah blah, da da da, and you don't actually model it for them. The TExES exam does not like answers where you do that. Another one is losing focus, ignoring your students. So that's an example of that is you have a behavior problem with a certain student, and it'll ask you a question like, what's the best way to address this or manage this problem? So if the answer says anything about ignoring your student, it's a trick. Don't you do it. Okay. Another thing it doesn't like is teaching only one way, because y'all know teaching is not a one-size-fits-all. It's not. The exam doesn't like it. The next one is stereotyping. You can already see why that's a problem. Ignoring common sense, and mean, bossy, and negative people. So that's where I told you, then like teachers that nag people. So don't go for the answer where the teacher's being super, super mean or ignoring someone. So, okay. So anyways, now that I'm off of that, I can actually show you guys what I did. Okay, so here's how it starts for social studies. So for social studies, I started studying August 22nd. So let me just give you guys a heads up. Social studies is my least favorite subject. Okay, least favorite. I don't know. It just never was my favorite. So I knew that that was going to be one exam that I was going to have to really, really study. Like I was going to take a lot of notes on it. So my way of studying, I write what subject I'm studying, the date, just so I know. And then I take notes on every single thing that is new information or something that I cannot verbally explain to you if someone came up to me and asked. So if you ask me about the New England colonies, okay? If you ask me which states were a part of the New England colonies, I cannot tell you. I mean, I can tell you like 3, but I can't tell you. So that is something that I wrote down. I wrote it down right here. Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Rhode Island. See? Okay, so yeah, write everything down that you cannot verbally explain to someone. Okay, write all of that down. And then for social studies, I went through competencies. So when I took my content exam for the EC36, I had to take the practice test in my school, and science was actually the subject that I failed. There were a couple misconceptions that I had about a few of the competencies. So I really went through and studied this because I didn't want it to be a problem when I took the science. So I went through and wrote it by competency. So you can see the competencies are in green, and then I wrote my definitions in orange. Well, I highlighted in orange so that I can see it. And then if y'all don't know anything, science is really, really hard for me. And like I said, I had a lot to work on because I was afraid I was going to fail it on the state exam. So I took really extensive notes because if I couldn't explain it, I didn't know it. Okay. So I took very serious notes. Bloom's taxonomy is one that they will ask you so much about if you're taking a science exam, or really any kind of exam. If you're taking the PPR, they're going to ask you too. So be ready for that. Yeah, so I took notes, and again, definitions are highlighted in orange so that they're easy for me to recognize. Oh my God, science, like 10 pages. But I passed it though. I passed it. Those are some school notes. Yeah. Okay, so after I took the notes in this binder, I read over them. The next week. Every day I read through them so I could remember them. I need to make sure I understand what the New England colonies consist of. I need to make sure I understand what mitosis means. I need to make sure I understand different acronyms. So making sure that I'm familiar with it. So at this point, I should kind of be able to give you a little bit what it's about. You know what I mean? And then things that I didn't really understand, I made sure that I put it into a Quizlet. Okay, so Quizlet is my favorite way to study, and I'm going to show you how I did that. My dusty, my dusty monitor. Okay, so I'm going to Quizlet. So this is my actual page where I have all my different sets, and I believe all of you can see this. So if you want to, you can just use mine, but if not, you can create your own. So it's already on the different sets. So what I did was put all my terms into a Quizlet. And remember, I had 240 tutoring at the time, so I also used that to study and take notes on. So any terms that they had in there, I jotted them down and I put them in a Quizlet so that I can use it. So I'm going to show you how I use it to study. So this is the Quizlet page. It shows you the flashcard, but the way I like to do it whenever I'm first doing it is go to the Learn. Oh, I like to use the Learn feature. what's going on? Okay, so you see, these are how many terms there are. And then right here, it'll tell you how many terms you're familiar with and how many terms you've mastered this. I'm sorry if this is like beginner knowledge and you're advanced, but we're going to break it down so everybody understands the same amount. Okay, so I got it. And that just shows that I studied this for so long that I mastered the terms. Okay, so the way that Quizlet does the learn feature is they will give you options on how you can learn them. When I first start doing Quizlet, I always go through the term, answer with the term, because sometimes the definition is too long. Okay, and then it'll also let you choose if you want to do multiple choice, written, or flashcards. It's up to you how you want to do it, but I always start with the easiest way first and then work my way up. So it'll ask you a question, you know, due to the Earth's rotation and uneven heating, all this, blah, blah, blah. Let's say I choose heliocentricity. Okay, so it says I got this wrong. You need to study this one. That's what it's telling me. Okay, it tells me the correct answer. Okay, so press any key to continue. So what it's going to do is it's going to put it back in my stack for me to have to try to get it right later. So once I finally get it right, once I get it right enough times, it'll put it into my master pile. So that's how I do the learn feature on Quizlet. And I do this on my phone because, I mean, I can do this anywhere. I used to do this when I was on break at work. Anytime that I was just sitting and waiting, because I was in college at the time when I was having to take this exam. So if I had to sit outside and wait on my professor, if we had like 5 or 10 minutes, I was always I was always going through one of my Quizlet sets. Okay, so use Quizlet. Okay, you can use mine. I don't really care. I don't get paid for it. It doesn't matter. Use the Quizlet set. It will help you with the terms, and hopefully you'll be familiar with what the test is looking for based on the information that's provided. So once I go through the Quizlet on the learn platform or whatever, then once I feel like I've mastered enough terms and I feel like I'm confident enough. So that was week 2. On week 3, I start taking practice exams. Okay, so let me show you what those look like. So I'm going to show you in this book, because remember that's how I did it. So after you have taken all the notes, you've studied, and by now you should be a little familiar with a lot of the terms. I'm not saying that you're going to be a master of whatever the subject is, unless it's just one specific subject. But at this point, you should have some knowledge of whatever information. Okay, so you should know something. So this is the chance for you to test your knowledge. So at the end of this read book, it gives you like 3 or 4 practice tests. I would number my page for how many questions there are in the practice exam. So what I do, I would time myself, and at the beginning of this book, and you can also find it on the Pearson website, it'll tell you how long the exam lasts. So I would time myself and take one of the practice exams. So it gives you the answer key back here. So what I do is I just go through on my actual paper and write whether I got it right or wrong. So I'm just grading my own test, and then I get my score. I don't actually look at the explanations, okay? I just want to see what I know, because I'm the kind of person who, if I see this, I'm going to memorize it. I don't want to memorize this. I want to know the content. So after I see what my grade is, my goal on this first one is to get a 60 or higher. So if I can get a 60 or higher, that's fine with me. Anything lower lets me know that I need to take it back a little bit. But a 60 or higher for me says, okay, that we got some stuff to work on, but we're not far. We're not far. So what I do after this is go through. This book actually tells you which competency it is, but if not, just figure it out. It'll tell you which competency it belongs to, and you can actually figure out which competency you're weak in. So if you have a lot of incorrect answers for a certain competency, that's where you need to go back. If it said I was weak in competency number 9, which I believe I actually was pretty weak in competency number 9, I would go back and study it. Okay, because it means that somewhere in there you don't actually understand the terms and what it all means. I would go back and do the Quizlet again, and I know it sounds really crazy to do that, but then there's another feature you can use. But yeah, I would go back and study that competency because you're missing something. That's what the practice tests do for me. They help me see where I'm lacking, where I'm weak. Okay, so study the competencies again, and then take another practice test. So what I would do, take a practice test, let's say on Monday. Tuesday, I study again. Wednesday, I take another practice exam. Thursday, I study again. Friday, take another practice exam. And Saturday, you study again. So then, at that point, I'm hoping by this point that your grade is actually rising and it's not actually falling. So hopefully at this point, you've been studying enough that you can recognize these different terms. You know, they're coming out of your mouth. You can, if someone walked up to you and asked you what this term means, you should be able to give them, you know, an answer, like a really good detailed answer. You can at least tell me what it's related to, something like that. And then week 4, there's the TEA actually gives you, there's some free, let me show you. You remember the Pearson website where you register for your exam? Okay, open this page. Okay, you can go to the Prepare tab. And then what you'll do is you'll choose your exam. Okay, I'm gonna scroll down to the one that I'm gonna take. English as a second language, which also is 154. Okay, so y'all, if you ever have any questions about the exam that you have to take or what's required and any kind of materials that might be provided for your actual exam, this is where you're going to find it. And they also give you a study plan too. So, how to prepare for the exams and preparation resources. So, the preparation materials that they provide are actually on this website. So, you can take this one. So again, what I recommend you do is take this. Don't look at the answers until you finish, which it provides a lot of questions. This one for the ESL exam provides 40 questions, okay? So once you figure out your score, it should give you a good estimation of how good you're doing. So my goal for taking the practice exams at the 4th week or at the final stage is that I'm pretty close to an 80. A lot of people ask me how I know that they don't actually grade everything. So I'm gonna go find it for you. Okay, let's see, scores. And this is all public information, y'all. I didn't just make this up. I think somebody thought I was making this up. Frequently asked questions about exam scores. All right, so here it is right here. How many questions do I need to get right to pass the exam? So there's no way to predict the exact number of questions needed to pass an exam. Okay, there are different versions. We all take a different version. And they do this to make sure that we're not cheating. You can read that on your own time. Do all of the questions count toward my score? So this is where I got this information from. So most exams include pre-test questions that are not scored. And basically what that means is they're filling the questions out to see if they're going to add them to future exams. Okay, so if you want to understand that, you can click this little link right here. But I'm going to show it to you on my actual score. So, okay, I'm going to show you guys my scores. All right, you ready? So, here it is. Here's what it looks like. A lot of people wonder what it looks like when you get your scoring card. This is it. There's no colors. It just has your name at the top and all your information. So here is English Language Arts. So it says it has a total of 65 questions. I got 49 correct. My score was 261. So let's see what that actually means. So let's pull up my calculator. 49 out of 65. So I would have gotten a 75 on this exam. Does that make sense? You know, you got to times that by 100. Y'all get it. I would have gotten a 75.3. Y'all remember, I told you have to get an 80. That's how I know they don't actually use all of the questions. You can tell, like, I honestly shouldn't have passed that. A 261, I don't know why that closed. So 261 out of 300 is an 87. Y'all see that? 87. I got a 73, but I got an 87. So they don't use all the questions. I don't know which questions they don't use. I don't know how they decide, but it's like that for all of them. And then what y'all didn't know, I barely passed the science exam. You gotta get a 240. I got a straight 240, you guys. I barely made it. Okay, so I hope that made sense. I'm all over the place, but I hope this helps someone. You guys, again, my biggest strategy for passing these exams is to take a bunch of practice exams. Okay, put the knowledge that you already have in your brain to the test. Okay, time yourself. Make sure that you are actually mimicking the actual environment. So cut off the music when you study and get in a quiet place so that you can take this test without being distracted like I was just now. Okay. I don't know what that was. But yeah, so that's all I have for today. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. Thank you guys so much for all of the support. I can tell that you guys are sharing, and people have even come back to me and told me that they really enjoyed my video. They found it really helpful. So if you know someone who is studying for the exam, make sure that you share it with someone so that they have the same opportunity to study and pass the exam like you. So if you have any questions for me, please leave them down in the comment section. I do respond to all comments. Like and subscribe my video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.